All right.
Good game.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yay!
Fuck.
All right.
Add that in.
Time to make some weird things happen.
Yeah, dude. This is the first podcast. Welcome, our interview style. So we actually have been planning to do these. You'll see me and then another unfamiliar face join us. But today we had a great
Unfamiliar,
opportunity.
is it?
Yes, great opportunity to sit down with my good friend from high school. Last day of high school, we got arrested together. Josh Berndt. Josh went to NASCAR Tech, and then after that worked in the NASCAR industry. Is that an industry? Racing industry?
Yeah, the racing industry, I'd call it that.
Cool.
Yeah.
And since then has left and is doing some other fun and cool stuff. So he's in town for a couple of days, like I said. I figured it'd be cool to sit down and talk to him. I know a lot of people that talk with us on the internet are into racing. So it'd be cool just to kind of see the differences between that side as well as the general maintenance side.
Yeah, and especially, going in a circle is a little different than taking left and right turns.
True.
Although, both can be equally as fun.
True. Or just, crashing your car and needing it to get it repaired.
Yeah, that too.
Cool. So, yeah, I just figured I'd ask you a couple questions that I don't even know the answers to.
Okay.
But, yeah, kind of curious. Like, I know it seems like you grew up being a huge fan of racing, NASCAR in particular. But what got you into that? Was it a person? Was it a thing?
I mean, honestly, there wasn't really any sort of set path. It just turned into, I don't know, when I was super, super young, my parents can tell you more about it, is like every single time we'd go out and do something, like get him his Matchbox cars to keep him entertained. Like always had little Matchbox cars. And then for whatever reason, I happened to like turn on the TV one day, or my dad was scrolling through channels, and there was a NASCAR race on. I was just fixated on it, like absolutely fixated. And ever since then, this was probably when I was 6, 7 years old, I was just fascinated with cars and everything of that sort, going fast. Anything that really just kind of struck my eye with cars.
Yeah.
Like just a huge fan of it. But racing is something I really, really gravitated towards, especially NASCAR racing. And, being in Western New York, F1 wasn't really a thing.
Yeah.
Like no one really watched that.
Growing
like,
up, it was, I didn't even know that was.
Yeah.
I feel like my earliest thoughts of like non-NASCAR racing, like even IndyCar, was like the old, what was that, like California, like the racing games at like FYE.
Oh,
like,
man, yeah. Like a Cruising USA or
yeah,
something like that.
Where it was like the bridges over and like driving and stuff like that.
Yep. Well, and then, the Need for Speed games came out, the Gran Turismos came out, and it's like, oh, there's like way more to racing than just, the NASCAR stuff.
Yeah.
So video games themselves, I think, really catapulted a lot of the younger generation into wanting to be involved in racing.
Totally.
Which, it's a godsend more or less.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I feel like with just tuner culture in general, like Fast and Furious was like the thing that started it all.
It revitalized the car community for sure. Because, you're getting out, what was that, the late 90s, where there wasn't really anything inspiring coming out.
Yeah.
There was nothing in the industry that was like gonna bring it to the next generation of folks. Because, your horsepower ratings for like the muscle cars from that era, down from emissions, like just absolutely atrocious, running 17-second quarter miles in like a Mustang. And so, that whole Fast and Furious franchise just completely transformed the car culture. And then with the subsequent development of like Scion, that helped a ton of people really rediscover the industry. Because, it was pretty much dead at that point. You had Gen Xers and Boomers throwing a 305 carbed on their Corvette, and it's like, hey, this thing's so cool.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that's only can last for so long.
Yeah.
Because muscle cars are unattainable to a lot of folks.
Totally. And I feel like us growing up was like, this is like pre us getting into cars, but like the only domestic like tuner cars really were like, I don't the Beretta, like the Sunfire.
Man, yes, the Beretta.
Like,
get the old Beretta GT 5-speed.
Oh my god!
That thing will blow the front tires off it though.
Yeah,
at least one of them.
Bouncing down the street.
Yeah.
What about like your just looking back? Like, what are some like maybe like the first memory you had of race? So obviously, like to harness and to stabilize young Josh.
Yeah.
They kind of just sat you in front of some racing to make you happy. But What's like something maybe like sticks out?
So there's a few key moments I think that I was thinking about the other day. One of my next door neighbors, he had a racing go-kart, and they would race out at Spencer Speedway.
Yeah.
And it was like just a small little go-kart with a Briggs and Stratton, and I loved that. Like that's what I really, really wanted to do, but we just couldn't really afford it. And like I didn't have, like, my dad was not in the position to be like, let's go racing, because like he didn't know anything about it. It's like just something that Josh likes.
Yeah.
And then one of my next door neighbors, he had a like a 71 Dodge Charger or 72 Dodge Charger with like glass packs on it, and I absolutely loved the way that car sounded. From there, I sat in I think it was Parrington Plaza, and I was, I don't know, probably 6 or 7, and there was some race car down there, and I got to sit in it, and I was like, oh man, this is so cool.
Hooked.
And then just hooked from there. And then
That's
my
it.
dad finally took me to a NASCAR race in, I think it was 1999. We went to Pocono.
Yeah.
And from there, I was just like, this is what I'm doing. And I decided, like, in 6th grade in middle school, I'm like, I'm moving to Mooresville, North Carolina, and I'm going to go racing after high school.
Sick.
And that's pretty much how that went down.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, like, I mean, I wouldn't know what I want to do at that age.
Yeah.
Even like towards the end of high school, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Right.
I went to like community college for like physics for like
Yeah.
2 semesters.
Yeah.
And, like, that fucking got me really far. But that's just crazy, like to know that. And actually, my first, I didn't grow up in like a automotive family either, like by any means. And it's really cool that both your parents like supported you so much in that. I remember going to your house and having like cardboard cutouts of NASCAR people, drivers in your room.
Yup.
Just kind of awkward.
That was absolutely ridiculous how much crap. And by the way, Jeff Gordon, I paid for a lot of things that you have now in your life, because we bought all the Jeff Gordon stuff.
Dude, they had the best livery, man.
Oh man,
DuPont.
it was ridiculous.
But even my like first experience like at a racetrack, I think was with you. We went down in high school to
Pocono,
Raceway.
yeah.
We went to like some of the like swap meets and stuff, and
Yeah.
I think I bought like a Rusty Wallace, one of the blue color cars that he drove.
Yeah, the late stages of the Miller Lite saga.
Yeah. So I had to pick a driver, and it just so happened to be him. But
You just like Miller Lite.
yeah, back then for sure, heavy into it.
Just a big fan of it.
Yeah, but I think also, I mean, just that era of NASCAR, I think that was like the bubble. It was like selling out. It was like soccer moms, NASCAR dads. Like it was just sellout stadiums. Like the peak of that.
Well, and that's what was crazy, in that era of, from like 97 to like 06, 07. It was really just like that's what people did on Sundays.
Yeah.
Like it was such a huge sport back in that era. And then when they, long story short, when they introduced the new Car of Tomorrow in 07, it kind of started making NASCAR peak past that bubble and kind of take some steps backwards, more or less, according to the race fans. You lost a lot of fans, after Earnhardt died, and then some of these major drivers from like the 80s and 90s, they were retiring, and so it just had to usher in a whole new generation. And I think now the sport's in the best shape it's been, since the 90s, in my opinion. They're doing a good job, especially with that new generation car, which most of the people that I know are not a big fan of it in the sport itself. But it's doing well. It's bringing folks into the grandstands again, and it's getting it more relevant into production cars.
Yeah,
because those cars didn't look like anything like a production car, like absolutely nothing like it.
Stickered fronts, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, still, they're pretty stickered up. But I definitely want to get into that in a minute, but and get your opinion on that, because we talked the other day about that, and we went to to high school with another friend of ours that's also just got out of the industry as well. And I think it's kind of around that same like change or in development for the next gen cars. But yeah, as far as like your journey, I guess what made you, I guess we already talked about like what made you want to get into NASCAR like as a career and kind of deciding that. But what were your steps from there? Like obviously moving down there after high school.
Yeah.
What was it like? Like is it kind of like an exclusive club, or is it just like a lot of people trying to do it?
It's very lucrative, and it's extremely difficult to find the right channels and avenues. So for what it's worth, the schooling I did was through UTI, and it was at their NASCAR Technical Institute campus in Mooresville, which is NASCAR Central. That is where all the race teams are. Like, I'd wake up in my apartment at like 8 a.m. and I can hear dyno runs from the teams and all that stuff. Like, super cool experience. Super, super cool. And there's always racing haulers around, so on and so forth. But the big thing is it's meeting the right people at the right time, and that's what it boiled down for me. For me, academics was never really a stronghold I had, because essentially with the UTI experience, they're forcing you to pass a test. That's it. And every single course is 3 weeks. So you're getting a crash course in just about everything mechanical. And so unless you go into that endeavor with a very, very good base knowledge of how everything works in an automobile, you're going to be behind the 8 ball. So you really have to apply yourself. For what it's worth, my GPA was never very good. I did not excel, but I happened to meet some really cool people that happened to like go volunteer on a race team every weekend. They invited me along one time in I think '07, and after that weekend or after that day at the shop, there's like, need to hire you full time because like you work and you don't complain. Sick. And that was pretty much it.
Half the battle for employing people.
Pretty much. That's still the same thing.
Yeah. Do you feel like so like you said, like a lot of people you just have to have like more knowledge coming in than like an average person like not knowing anything at all. Do you feel like a lot of people that were in like the same class as you, were some of them like older? Did they already have experience, or was everyone kind of like in the same?
Most of everyone was super green, straight out of high school. And for what it's worth, I mean, there's definitely some sort of misleading portion in that generation when they're selling you the NTI experience. Like, well, you could take the NASCAR courses, but it's an elective. It's not really part of the curriculum, but they add it on after the fact. So you have to go through the entire core curriculum, but it wasn't presented that well from the recruiter, because the recruiter made it like it's NASCAR school. You go to work on NASCARs. Yeah. And it's like, well, that's not really how the experience is. So most of the people that went there, they either the people that wanted to do NASCAR stuff, they basically just flunked out before they even got to that program, or B, you had people that did the NASCAR stuff but really didn't have a desire to do the NASCAR afterwards stuff. But you still got a really, really valid education from it as long as you applied yourself. And that was really what it boiled down to. You had to apply yourself.
Yeah, a couple of the guys that worked here before that like were techs, they have some choice words for like a lot of those schools. Like you see the commercials for like the UTI, like the diesel course, like whatever, and they're doing like really crazy like dyno stuff like working on like Harley, choppers and stuff like that. And there's like, it's not like that at all.
No, it's not.
I think going into it sounds like if you're there to like learn, you learn the stuff, and then like really it's just about the experience afterwards.
And the big thing is like when I first went down there, I didn't know what I really wanted. I'd wanted to get into NASCAR. I was like, I would want to be a race car driver. That school's not for that. Yeah. You got to go to like Skip Barber or something like that, but
probably even earlier.
Yeah, exactly.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So what, I guess with that team that you started working for full time, did you stick with that same team after finishing school or?
Yeah. So essentially, I guess the timeline would be, I graduated in, I think early 07, something like that. And essentially, as soon as I graduated, I got a full-time job. Sick. And so that following week after I graduated, we went to Nashville. And funny story about that is drove up to Nashville, like it was April, and it was snowing. So that was cool. And went out there for, I think, qualifying. Car was terrible. Like, we didn't know what we were doing. We were just kids. We had no idea what was going on. Our crew chief was 22. Yeah, so it's like he was the oldest, most mature person at the race team. So we could see how that went down. Basically, our drinking problem had a racing team issue or something like that. But anyway, so we knocked the oil pan off in qualifying, had to put a new oil pan on it. Well, put a new engine in it. Yeah. And then at that juncture, just ran terrible all day, ran like 30th. But at that time, I was still really, really into doing pit crew stuff. And so I was a tire carrier. So like our pit stops were always flawless.
Yeah.
Even though we ran like 35th every week, but we still had so much fun.
Out there quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. And no pressure too. I think that's the cool thing is like starting that low. It's like, hey, like if we make a place up, like cool, you know, it's like there's no pressure. So.
Yeah. It's not like getting on a huge race team that wins every week and it's like, hey, guess what? You're going to be the guy. Like, oh, I don't like that.
Loose screw. Yeah. So I guess after that, is there like in most, types of work or lines of work, whatever, there's usually like a structure, like a ladder you can climb, you know what I mean, from like one position to another. Obviously in NASCAR, there's tons of different stuff between like, mechanical stuff, composite materials, like aerodynamics, so on and so, even marketing, So was there kind of like a general idea of like what ladder you wanted to climb or what the structure was ahead of you, or was it kind of just like whatever you wanted to do?
It was basically whatever you excelled at, because most big race teams, even back in that era, like the mid 2000s, they were pretty much just a production facility at that point, to where like you're doing one thing all day long, like you're the finish fab guy or you're the suspension guy. So what was really helpful for my knowledge anyway is all the race teams I worked for, pretty much like you've got to figure everything out.
Yeah.
Like you are going to help everyone do everything. So it turned in from like being a full-time pit crew member / mechanic to I became a tire guy. Yeah. That was like my full-time job at the racetrack for the first couple of years. And then once I got a really good handle of how the tires worked, where the tires had to be, because that's like a whole different conversation about how that works. Yeah. And then from there, it's like, well, we got to have you do stuff at the shop. So I started doing pulling engines in and out of cars. And then, all right, we're going to put the suspension on the car. Hey, I need your help setting up this race car for the weekend. So it just kind of like was a natural ladder. It's like, well, if you're really good at this, you can then do this, then you can do this, then you can do this. So it just kind of turned into you're assisting with every single step of the process. Yeah. But we still did have, specialists that were like paint guys, body guys, like that was their specialty. But if I didn't have anything to do, I'd go in the body shop and help them. Sweet. That type of stuff. So that was the one really, really, really benefiting factor of not working for a huge conglomerate race team where it was just the same thing day in, day out. I always had something to do.
Yeah. Sweet. Is that pretty typical, you think, like from other people you talk to, or does it really depend like the team that you're in?
It really kind of depends on the team that you're on. But, obviously you have people with certain skill sets, and that's like what their primary job is. And so by the time it was all said and done, my primary job was the car chief. So essentially at that juncture, it was like whatever happens to that race car, I'm kind of in control of, and would, I guess, delegate the few people I had to do certain tasks. And then we'd go to the racetrack, and I would do the primary setup with the crew chief and all of that. And then from there, it would just kind of, I would try to help out the younger people the best I could, and just kind of guide them the right direction. But, a lot of people, they just want the name. They want to work for a Penske. They want to work for a Hendrick Motorsports. But a lot of those folks, from what I've seen, they don't last very long because, like, man, this is not that satisfying. Yeah. Just it doesn't give them that satisfaction of actually accomplishing something. Yeah. So that's where it gets a little bit tricky.
Especially probably, like, I'm sure, like working to that position in that team. It's like
you're just a link in the chain, more or less, instead of like trying to pull the whole chain with you. Yeah. But
so what about so that's your kind of role was like make sure the car was set to race. Yeah. So what was your relationship like with like some of the drivers? Was it like pretty good, or like a little heated at times? Like if they bend it like during practice, things got kind of spicy.
And sometimes it would, I don't know. I was friends with the drivers the best I could be, but it's like, hey, like you're just another seat filler. Yeah. To me, it's like you're putting on the fire suit, you're turning that thing left, you're turning it right, you're doing what you need to do. Some of them are very bad at it. Yeah. Some of them are really, really good at it, but they just never had the opportunity to, get that big break, more or less, And some of those drivers, I definitely do have a lot more of a camaraderie with, but this day it's like I never had a lot in common with drivers. And it's just one of those things where, you go to the racetrack and Again, the tires are the only thing that are supposed to touch the racetrack.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, if you're hitting the wall or the race car's bottoming out, it's like, whose fault is it really?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
like, we just try our best that we can as crew members to fix the problem with the race car. But if you've got a driver that really doesn't know what it's doing, it gets really, really tricky.
When we
really
gave it
fast.
to you, it was running fine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, well, we'll put a different driver in. Well, don't do that.
Yeah.
It's like suddenly it's like, oh, suddenly the car's handling better. Well, what'd you do different? Well, I just started turning the wheel more. It's like, what? Well, that's not how that works. Like,
Yeah.
So you get a lot of times, and it's one of those things where they're brought up to know everything.
Yeah.
To where trying to teach them gets really tricky because they don't want to learn because they already know it. And so they get really cocky when they strap in that seat. And it's like, well, I know what I need. Like, you clearly don't because you don't know what you're doing.
People skills are very overlooked, I feel like, in a lot of disciplines. It just, even obviously, like, in something like that where there's so many different people in charge of so many different things, and like you're trying to interpret what the driver's saying to you into like a mechanical sense of like, if they feel this or they want more of this or less of that, they don't quite know how to tell you, they don't know what makes that happen most of the time, right? So trying to like interpret that feel or that sound, that, whatever, into a mechanical. Yeah.
Like, and the thing is with a, a lot of times with a younger race car driver, they tell you their input is the last thing that they felt. They're not telling you the things that they felt 3 times before that.
Yeah.
It's like, the big thing is you break down the corner of, entry center off. Well, it's tight in the center. Well, is it tight in the center because you're loose in? Well, I don't know. Like, well, all right, let's fix the loose in and see if it helps the tight center, So you basically have to watch the car and just kind of dig through what they're telling you as like, all right, you're feeling this, but that's not what we need to be fixing.
Yeah.
So that's where it separates a really good crew chief from just a guy that can interpret what the driver's saying.
Yeah.
And I've worked with some really good people with that. I've worked with some really bad people about that.
Sure.
So.
Does it seem like most of those guys, because I'm really surprised just the car industry as a whole, a lot of people that I talk to don't really seem very passionate about cars, which is strange to me. It's like I'll talk to people that are that work for like a tuning company. It's like, oh, like what do you drive? Like, oh, I have a like CRV.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Like what did you have something before that? Yeah, like whatever. And it's like it's just a job for them. I guess for me, like being for you and I, just being so passionate about the craft that we that we try to master, it's just strange to me that people kind of find themselves in that spot. Is that true in that industry, or is it mostly people that got into it for some reason, maybe got out of it, like
usually
lost the spark?
Yeah, and typically in my experience anyway, most of the people that are in there are doing it because they love racing.
Yeah.
That's 100% the passion. Obviously you get people that been in it for too long and they're very jaded, and it's like they want to quit but they don't know anything else.
Yeah.
So they're just basically stuck. Like, no, I just have to do this till the day I die. I never made enough money or didn't save enough money. So it's like, I just stuck in racing. That's all I know. So you definitely have that group of folks that are now getting to that age, especially with this new generation car, where they're really considering, like, let me get out. Like, just let me do something else. Some people will start a restaurant. You'll go push carts at Walmart, like anything to not be in racing, you know. But usually people
open
just
a cheeseburger in paradise.
Yeah, that's it.
On the beach.
That's it.
Living life.
That's it. Yeah, just live in your shorts. That's it.
Yeah, I guess speaking of the next gen cars and the new generation, we talked earlier about that. You mentioned it, and I think my next line of questioning is kind of like what started to drive you away from that. It sounds like in our mutual friend from school, he just got out of it, and it sounds like it might be kind of around this new generation coming out. So I guess you mentioned that it's bigger than it's ever been, right? Like more people into it. There's a lot more focus on trying to get NASCAR in like metro areas that are more accessible to more people. Like the LA race they did, the Coliseum, the Chicago race they just did, and I think they're adding even more. I think they talked about New York City at some point.
Okay.
Did you mention that to me, Jordan?
Nope.
Gotcha.
No, I haven't heard of it. So
Yeah. Somebody mentioned it to me about like them racing in New York somewhere, but
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, but
because they're adding a lot more road courses for sure.
yeah, that too. So it seems like it's kind of like the focus is not just changing the cars, but also changing like where they race and how accessible it is to the people. So obviously you mentioned, like I said before, that it seems like it's really gaining steam and momentum from like where it was a few years ago. But the industry side of it, it sounds like a lot of people are less excited about the change. Is it more like the cars, or is it more like, I guess, NASCAR corporate's like vision of where?
Yeah, I think it is a combination of both. Where a lot of the people that have built these cars for 20, 30 years, they're pretty much they just hate the new chassis. Like it's not user friendly. All the parts just are kind of chintzy. So it turns into, like I was mentioning, the manufacturing side of it, where everything just bolts up. There's no real craft. Like you're not building control arms. You're not fabricating everything for it, to where a lot of these people that have been like a staple in the industry, they're more or less just kind of losing their job because like we don't really have anything for you anymore, man.
Yeah.
And you're getting paid a lot of money to be here to not really have to do anything.
Yeah.
We can hire people for a lot less money to do your job now. Yeah. To where I think people are jaded, yes, with the industry, but yeah, also the car itself is just not. It's just not what people want to work on right now.
Is it by like manufacture? Is it all manufacturers kind of the same?
Now, as far as I know, every single chassis is NASCAR designed, to where every single chassis that you buy comes from NASCAR corporate. If I could be completely wrong, it's a little bit out of my wheelhouse. Yeah, it's like, very, very standardized. Gotcha. It's like a spec car series.
Yeah,
that's the best way I could describe it. It's like a spec car series.
Gotcha.
So it does it. I think it helps the racing in a way.
Yeah.
Because you don't have a lot of those drivers that just run away and like are 2 laps ahead of the field.
Yep.
Because they figured out some aero trick.
Yeah.
So that helps the fans, but for someone that like me that likes the mechanic side of it, I'm like, what are they doing? Because that's really cool, So I think that you're going to hear a lot more of those like old school racer stories on a lot of these podcasts of like, oh, this is what we did to win this race,
That's cool.
So I think that's going to be a cool thing to figure out, like the like the Dale Jr. podcast or something like that, Dale Jr. download. But he's got some really cool stuff he does. So.
Yeah, it's funny for me to see like a lot of the people that. I was never like really like super into NASCAR. Like when I'd see it, like if it was on, I'd be like, cool. Yeah. This year I've definitely watched it a little bit more. Just being a dad and being home more often and not getting out.
Kids liking racing, so
yeah. Miles is super into racing, so I've watched it a few times and it's interesting. I'm not going to go into I don't understand the structure of like the heats and playoffs and stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
so,
they change that weekly. It seems
like.
So
I don't want to get into that on this in this conversation, but I'd say overall, like it seems like there's definitely a mix up. It's not like the same people winning every weekend. So that's cool. So I guess what made you want to start looking elsewhere? Was it because of the industry or like personal factors?
A lot of personal factors in it. I mean, it was a situation where I was getting to be in like my mid-30s, which I am now. But yeah.
Add the horns in.
So I was like in my 30s, and I'm like, all right, so I've got a pretty steady girlfriend, blah blah blah, and I'm just like, man, I just don't want to travel 42 weeks a year anymore, because the big thing is especially with the small race teams, it's like, well, you're kind of doing everything all the time. Yeah. And then we were racing multiple series. So like I do Legends car racing on Monday and Tuesday, and any sort of off weekend with our main K&N program, I would go late model racing. So like it was pretty much from February all the way through October, just gone.
Damn.
But I mean, granted, we'd fly, so like it wasn't that bad. Yeah. But it's just like the constant go. I'm like, I am kind of over it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what gravitated me towards like, you know what? I've got a pretty valid skill set. Let me try to apply it just in the general automotive industry.
Yeah.
And it seems to be working pretty well. So
yeah, I just to kind of butt in like on obviously I'm into F1. A lot of the viewers might know that. We bring it up from now and again or repost stuff on our stories that maybe you have no idea about. But anyways, yeah, the calendar now, like it went from, I think back in the early 2000s, it was like 15 to 18 races, 15 races, and then they bumped it up, and they're aiming to do like 24 to 25. And if you think about it, like they go all over the world, and it's not to discount, domestic series like IndyCar and NASCAR and other stuff, but it's like some of the races they'll do like triple headers, like 3 weekends in a row, 3 different continents.
It's like Gordon Ramsay's logistical nightmares.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like it's the fact that like you have to have the same crew traveling that much, 3 or 4 weeks in a row. Like a lot of teams are talking about, like, do they have to bring in like a B team? You know what I mean?
That's
like
fair.
And rotate pit crew staff, or like
engineers get burned out.
Totally. So it's something that maybe for them is a little more top of mind because it's like a newer schedule. But even with like the NASCAR and all that stuff, has that ever been something like they've ever talked about? Is it just like shrink the budget as much as you can to try to save money and have the same people?
It seems that over the course of the past 15 years, NASCAR as a whole is doing every single thing they can to cut corners. Well, not cut corners, but cut costs.
Yeah.
So in the early or mid 2000s, they started cutting back on pit crew members over the wall. Mm-hmm. They got rid of even more pit crew members. I think it's down to like, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6. Yeah. Once upon a time, it was like 9. So all that does is make it to where everyone has to work a little bit harder, but we have to like switch everyone's roll up. But also, whoever is not over the wall, it costs NASCAR substantially less money every week because there's a lot of different insurance that's involved to allow people over the wall. So they have to have like a set roster now, so on and so forth. So they're doing every single thing they can to save themselves money.
Do you think and I'm sure they said that they did that due to safety.
Yeah.
But do you think it's like
money?
Due to money?
It's money. Like obviously like they've done a good job of readjusting how pit stops work and all that stuff. Yeah. With different types of technologies. The single lug nut is a really good benefit, which is, it's just so odd to me that they're having trouble with it considering, F1 and IndyCar have been using it forever. Yeah. But that's besides the point. That goes back to the engineering department. But we won't get into that. But they're also working on the idea of using a single pump hydraulic jack that's in the car, like Indy cars and F1. They're working on it, but the whole issue with those cars is they weigh so much. Yeah. Like back in, I don't know what they are now. They might be like 3,100, but they used to be like 3,600 pounds minimum. Yeah, it's a heavy ass car. And then most of because of it's a circle track car, most of the weight's on the left side. Yep. So you're getting probably 1,800 pounds of weight, maybe 2,000 pounds of weight just on the left side. So that's where it gets really tricky when they're trying to develop this jack. It's like, where are we going to put it? Is it going to be safe?
Yeah, yeah. Because a lot of F1 or like F2 teams, like they go to jack it up and it slips off or whatever. Like the car, like they can lift the cars up.
Exactly.
And it's not a problem, but for those cars it might be tough. Yeah. Do you think they'd ever do like an air jack setup, like in the car, like where they plug in like a pneumatic line?
That is something that they, from what I understand anyway, that they've been trying to develop. But it's could be wrong, but it seems like a lot of the beta testing, it just keeps blowing out seals after 10, 12, 13 uses. It doesn't work right every time. And that's where it's gotten really tricky of like, well, how are we going to do this?
I almost went into like the sporting aspect of it, where it's like NASCAR is really, a lot of it's built off like heritage, right? A lot of it's built off like history and the culture around it. Where if you take away like a jackman, like would that just, I guess, take away from the sport?
I mean, in a way, probably. But again, they'll adjust. Everyone's going to adjust. Like what I always found really fun is during like the All-Star weekend, basically they would eliminate pit road speed and they would do like a pit crew competition where you can enter pit road however fast you want as long as you stop in the box. Jesus. And like it's cool for the driver, it's cool for the pit crew. Yeah. Like it's really cool to watch in person too. I bet. Because like you're used to watching them slow down, go like 60, going like 160 down pit road, just hauling ass like god damn. Yeah. Like, it is cool. Yeah. But yeah, that's the one thing though. Like they're kind of getting away from it the more and more they simplify it to where it's like, it kind of takes away the excitement. Yeah. But it technically is safer. You got less people trying to get hit on pit road.
It's always good to not hit people. So yeah, I guess what coming from that side of things, and a lot of it like like yearly campaigns, right? And like every year maybe there's like a different focus or like a different department like trying to do something better or jumping around to different areas. I guess coming from that to like general repair, I guess like what was your experience like your first job like outside of NASCAR? Was it total like shell shock, or was it like a breath of fresh air? Or
It was definitely a little bit of shell shock because, I popped the hood on some of these cars. I'm like, I know what this stuff does because that's my education, but I don't know how it works.
Yeah,
So
all the plastic covers.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like looking at all these parts, I'm like, all right, this should be this should be that. But, like without that general knowledge to start with, it'd have been a complete disaster. Because luckily enough, like I knew what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
So it was definitely a little bit of shell shock in a way, but it was refreshing to be able to Friday just clock out, go home. Yeah. But trying to shut my brain off from it, that's where it's gotten really tricky because all I want to do is go, go, go. And it's like, how can I make this better? How can I make this work better? How can I make this function better? So it's always been really difficult for me to just shut work off. So, and I guess that's
you
where
even take like the
comes
customer
in.
cars like home with you almost. Like,
I mean,
do you
I'd
find
like
yourself
to.
thinking about it like on the weekend?
I'd like to.
Yeah.
Especially
Not physically, but like you'll be like sitting around on a Saturday.
Oh yeah, thinking about it.
like,
I could go to work and fix this.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden it hits me. Oh, this is what it needs. Or this is the problem with it.
Write it down before you forget.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's where I guess it's just ingrained in me. After being in the racing industry, it's like figure it out. So it's like I don't have anyone else to kind of spitball with. So it's like now it comes back to me solely.
Yeah.
So it's definitely it's been a I don't know, it's been a fun challenge in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I enjoy it.
Nice. Yeah. That's what's up. So as far as I guess a lot of it comes back to like instead of like a team that's paying for it, it's like a customer's paying for it, right?
Yeah.
So I guess like that's the other side of it too, is like you were in I guess your customer in the NASCAR industry is really the driver.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to build the best car for them to try to drive. But as far as like I guess the customer side of things, do you like feel like rewarded? Is it like kind of like a nuisance? Do you kind of just toss your hands up like, hey, like some people are cool, some aren't?
It is a really fun job for me anyway, in the sense of I'm not much of like, I'm kind of an introvert in a way, but when I have like conversations with people, I thoroughly enjoy it.
Yeah.
So like as a service manager and all that stuff, like for me, there's such a passion behind the words I'm spewing to where the customer gets excited.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, you're going to pay me like $2,000 to fix your car.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, but you want to.
Yeah.
And I enjoy it because the thrill of the sale, but fixing something.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, like I know this will fix it because I see what's broken.
I go to car shows and look at cars and I'm like, oh my, like the parts are so like really clean, like nice bill, or not clean, nice like money put into a car, and it just doesn't look good or like look right, or like it's not. They didn't spend money in like the right places.
Yeah.
I'll look at like cars and I'm just like, man, like if I could
like all the opportunity,
advise somebody like just a little bit, it's like
which I'm sure that people would resonate really well with those folks at car shows.
Sure, yeah. Hey, you should have done this instead.
Yeah, this thing sucks, man.
But yeah, I get that. It was like being able to have that effect on somebody to be like, hey, like I know you want to do this, but like just listen, like I know what I'm doing. Listen to me.
Listen to me.
That must be pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's a male-dominated industry, no matter how you slice the cake.
Yep.
So you get the same group of people that try to do it that are extremely arrogant and extremely cocky with it, but they don't really have the results to produce it.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets it pisses me off more or less. Like these people are kind of big pieces of crap, and like I really don't like a lot of people, in the industry as a whole, because they're not good at it, but they think they are.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm good at it, but as it turns out, I'm not bad at it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway,
I think that's a lot of industries, unfortunately.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
people know somebody and get bumped up or
Toxic
there's
masculinity.
yeah, let's go. Let's go.
Let's be as toxic as possible.
Let's go. Let's right now. We're gonna Macho Man Randy Savage clip entered.
You know it, brother.
Hell yeah. What is it like working on going from working on like brand new chassis with brand new parts and very nice, crisp, pristine
Getting my
bolts?
hands dirty drives me nuts.
Yeah.
I hate
Are you a
it.
glove man or no?
I have to wear gloves.
Yeah.
Like I lose my mind otherwise. Like getting my hands dirty, I absolutely despise. But it's part of the industry. But like you pop the hood on some of these cars, it's like, God, just take a pressure washer to it.
We found a couple of birds. Found a snake one time, not alive like any of this stuff, but like dead. Like I forget whose car it was. We had in here.
It was Ryan's.
Was it?
Like he's had 2 birds in his front grill
Right.
in the
Nice.
last month. Yeah.
Nice.
I got a bat in my hood.
Is it the new BMW grill?
No, it's Toyota Camry.
7 or 8 years in that thing. Yeah, I got a bat in my my hood scoop one time.
Oh man.
Yeah, I thought I saw it coming towards me, and then it disappeared. So I was like, oh, must have flew over the car or something like that.
yellow finch in mine.
Yeah,
No wonder
fried
Gotham
to
is in shambles now.
I know, dude.
You killed Batman.
The count is down for the count. But yeah, is that just like I feel like I don't know. When I come across like a seized bolt, it's like detrimental to my mental health. I can't imagine doing it like multiple times a day.
I tell you,
or a
like
week.
for I don't know. I've spent endless amounts of money on tools, and I buy more tools weekly. So anything that requires actual effort, I start getting super frustrated.
I bet.
But like I do the best I can. Be like, nope, we're gonna drop this and do something else for a minute, or it's like, no, we're gonna spend an awful lot amount of time to not do anything just to get the bolt loose.
Yeah.
You know, but like I'm one of those people that if it requires a lot of effort, you're doing something wrong, in my opinion. Like there is an easier way to do this. There has to be. So like trying to navigate that, especially with like younger techs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't get this loose. Like stop.
Yeah.
Like or it won't go back together. It's like it came apart. It has to go back together easily.
Yeah.
That's what it's designed to do. You're doing something wrong. So just trying to be nice.
Put heat in it. Put cool in it.
Yeah.
Ice. Fucking anything.
Yeah. Put it in the freezer. It'll fit.
Yeah. So yeah, what's kind of like your, I guess your vision for yourself, obviously you the experience that you've had going from that to this, and I'm sure is like a whirlwind almost, you know, and kind of. I definitely want to talk about briefly, because I know we've been going for a bit. Briefly, like your extracurricular automotive activities, but I guess do you envision yourself ever going back to like the racing industry? Are you like disillusioned from it? Is it something?
No, I can definitely see myself doing it, but I would want to do it on my own accord, to where if I can, because I'm trying to figure out what my new business endeavor is going to be. Obviously, I need to start out with making money, which passenger cars, sorry to say, there's a lot of money in passenger cars because it's constant.
Yep.
Toy money is great, but you have to find the right clientele, and toy money is essentially like a piggy bank for a lot of folks. So you get a lot of folks that, take the toy money from people and not actually produce anything. So where I want to find the right cast of characters to have underneath my belt to be like, we can produce results with your fun money. And then, from there, if I get into like sports cars and stuff like that, it's like, I know how to, I can make a car go around a racetrack pretty darn well, to where maybe I can get behind the wheel of something again someday, or get to the point of just kind of like taking care of people's race cars for them, or their track cars, like their Porsches and Lamborghinis. Like, I'm taking this thing on a track day. Can you set it up for me?
Yeah.
I'd love to.
Yeah.
Yeah, just that type of thing. But I wouldn't want to necessarily go to the racetrack to support someone.
Yeah.
Now, if I had a crew and I was just kind of operating it, that's a whole different story.
Yeah. So you're living in Indianapolis now, obviously.
Correct.
Are there, obviously, it's like a mecca for IndyCar, namesake for it.
And NHRA is based out of there too.
No way.
Yeah.
They're not.
Yep.
Crazy. Whenever I watch those on whatever channel is constantly playing them.
Oh,
Absolutely insane. Are there a lot of like weekend tracks around there? Is it mostly like based around like the Indianapolis
there is,
track? Or?
that people claim like it's the Circle City, it's like home of IndyCar, blah blah
The
blah.
Brickyard.
Yeah, but for what it's worth, not a lot of asphalt racing up there. Dirt racing is like the mecca. A lot of your big NASCAR drivers came through Indy, like growing up, and just raced the local dirt tracks. You've got several up there, like Lawrenceburg, Kokomo, to name just a couple. But like that's where a lot of people race, like sprint cars and everything like that. That's like the big, like that's what people go do on Saturday nights, go dirt track racing. Yeah. So not as much asphalt stuff for sure. Yeah.
It seems like that around here too, to be honest. Like the more we had somebody come in the shop the other day that was just wondering what we do here. And he talked about, like, he was like showing me videos like last Friday night we were out racing dirt tracks and Weed Sport or something like that. So.
Oh yeah, Weed Sport. I know where that is. Yeah. But that's like it's actually up near the near Watertown in Lake Chameau.
Oh no way.
Yeah, kind of.
I thought it was Buffalo
like
for
up
some
there.
reason, but
I could be completely wrong.
No, you're probably right.
I haven't lived here for like 20 years. So,
so obviously like the overland off-road community. I want to get your definition on that for just a brief moment, and the differences between the two, because when I think of one, I think of like tents on top of like mall crawlers, and the other one I think of like old dirty like Jeeps just getting through stuff. But obviously that's something that when we knew each other better, like live close to each other, you weren't so much into that stuff, but it's cool to see. Like, it interests me because I don't know much about it.
Yeah.
But what kind of got you into that? Was it just like something that you saw and was like, I want to go off road?
It was an odd thing. I had you remember the old Firebird I had in high school? Yeah. I crashed that thing finally in like 2007. Finally crashed that thing, and I ended up getting a 1992 Jeep Cherokee just because it's kind of cool. And my friend Ryan that lives out in Texas now, he convinced me. He's like, "Oh, these things are so cool." Okay, so I bought it, and I had it for like 2 years or so, and finally he convinced me to take it off road.
Yeah,
got hooked. Like, so much fun. Never would have thought in my life at 5 miles an hour I could have so much fun.
Yeah.
Not necessarily like just getting wasted driving by any means, but like the obstacles and like trying to make it up like this hill or like this rock ledge. It's like just all the crap that you have to do to like make it work
and like understand traction and weight distribution. I would have no idea. I just it would be like me running into a wall. Like, same sense.
But yeah, that's what really intrigued me with it, and I just I've gone down that path with my own personal endeavors. I had that Lexus for a little while, the LS 460. Big fan of that until I lowered it, and then I hated it. But like that's what was like I was trying to get back into like my sports car love. Yeah. Turns out all that costs a lot more money.
Oh, true.
To have both of them.
True.
I'm like, well, I got to pick one. So I stuck with the Jeep stuff for the time being. So hopefully one of these days I can make some more money and do both. Yeah. That'd be cool.
I saw you took a trip out to Utah. Is that the furthest trip you've taken for something like that?
Yeah. We drove out to Utah like 5 years ago, and we're planning to do that trip again this year. Just not sure if I'm going to be able to participate. But yeah, drove that old 1998 Jeep Cherokee I have now, drove it straight to Utah. And wheeled it for 5-6 days. Damn. Broke a couple things, but was able to drive it home.
Yeah, and I'm sure like the groups there are probably just like they just want to help out, so they have parts and they can give a hand.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. It's like it's kind of like you with your Subarus. It's like you appreciate everything, but like you have a really solid knowledge base on Subarus. Yep. It's the same thing that kind of with me with Jeeps. Like now, if in 2007 I bought a Toyota Tacoma or a 4Runner, it'd probably be a whole different conversation we'd be having. But I happened to buy a Jeep. I'm like, I can work with this. And I just kind of went from there.
How do you feel about the Jeep culture? The tire covers. Do you have a Tweety Bird?
No comment.
Truly. You don't want to upset anyone.
But no, honestly, like the Jeep culture is not really for me. Yeah. That scene is really valid, but it's kind of like the tuner scene, in a way.
Yeah. There's some good people and some. It's almost like the people buy a Wrangler and they just assume that like it's a Jeep thing now. You know what I mean? Where it's like the true people that go and use them for what they're for. And I'm not shaming anyone either. Like my wife wants a Jeep more than I want to admit.
Have her drive one of those and then drive a Toyota and then have her come back and see what she really wants. Yeah.
I'll never do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess like the rise of overland community and like that whole thing.
Pack it in, pack it out.
It seems like really popular. Like a lot of the people that like when Instagram was really big, I followed a lot of people because that's what you did back then. It's just like you follow as many people as you can and try to get your ratio correct. But a lot of people that I knew that were like into Subarus or into a lot of like the stance kind of scene, it seems like they've kind of gone that direction, and that's one of the reasons that like really has my curiosity. I guess is like if they like the stuff that I like and they're into that, like I might kind of be drawn to that as well. I guess.
I think they're the big difference between an off-roader and an overlander, short of alcohol consumption, would be.
I've heard you bring that up. I'd love to get you. Like, I want to understand that a little bit more, but yeah.
But yeah, short of the alcohol consumption. I mean, the big thing is with overlanders, they're looking for wide open spaces and like the camping and camaraderie with a wide open space. A lot of off-roaders,
Getting
it's
lost
like
almost.
Yeah,
not a challenge, but like just finding the middle of nowhere.
Yep, and like just a big open space. With off-roaders, it's like. There's a little dirt trail down there that leads down to a creek. There's a bunch of woods. We can go play around there.
Yeah.
And that's where I like to do.
Yeah.
So it's like just go find like trails in the middle of the woods.
Seeing if you figure your car down. Up something.
Yeah. And the difficult part is with overlander stuff, you've got the tents. You've got all the things like the awning on the side. Like you don't really want to take that thing in the middle of the woods and rip that tent off. Like so it's much more better for them to be like out in the Colorados or like out in wide open space. So it's hard to find like a good overlanding community in a place like Western New York or in Indianapolis because it's like just a lot of woods.
Yeah.
A lot of woods. So like you get the people that are into the scene, they may represent the scene well, but they're not necessarily doing what is represented, if that makes sense.
No, totally.
And the thing is, it's not posing. Like I wouldn't consider it a poser culture. It's just like we just don't have the places to do it. So the one time a year, me and my wife go out to California with the 4Runner, that type of thing. So
nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
Obviously I know I've seen you post like a bunch of videos of you working on the cars. Yeah. Is there a place where people could like follow you? Do you have a YouTube channel? I know obviously your Instagram, but
I do have an Instagram and I do have a YouTube channel. It hasn't been updated in a couple of years. I've got tons of content and I just haven't sat down and actually sorted through it. But you follow Breaking Too Early, and that's breaking like you broke something. So BREAK, Breaking Too Early. So it kind of highlights some of the racing stuff. It highlights me breaking stuff. So it's kind of like what's that, play on words or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
double entendre.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. I don't know who that is, but
great guy. Cool. Well, yeah, check Josh out there. I think that's the questions I have for you. You're gonna do like a quick fire round of
oh God,
fuck, marry, kill the current NASCAR driver lineup, but I didn't think it through very well. But
okay.
Yeah, I guess just as a summary of your experience that we talked about, whatever, I guess if anyone listening or watching is interested in getting into that industry, whether it be NASCAR or something else, I guess, like what sort of, do you have like a one piece of advice that you give them besides don't or do,
No, but I mean, honestly, stay humble and just work. Just be there, be at the shop, be part of the industry. Don't just show up like dragging your feet and trying to like mimic the most miserable person at the shop. Be the guy with a smile on his face. Be the guy that, hey, so-and-so can come do this, and just be there and just be happy about it, because everyone wants to do it. Not everyone can do it. And then at the end of the day, not everyone should be doing it. So you'll figure it out pretty quick. As long as you can perform a task, you can get it done.
Amen.
Yeah. Amen, brother.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks, man. Appreciate your time.
I appreciate you.
Oh, you were appreciated.
Oh, well, that's good.
Enter Tupac. Cool.
Yes.
That's it. That's what we got for you guys. Thanks again, Josh, for sitting down. If you guys want to follow him, give him a follow. Jordan will
Breaking
put his,
too early.
We'll type it out. We'll put the letters there.
Are you
misspell
gonna
it.
do that like right now?
Yes.
You got a sign?
Yeah. Like one of those deli signs in the back.
Yeah.
That'd be sick. Next time we'll do that. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed this, we do plan to have more of these with different people, with just us. Me and John Carlo will be joining us next time. Until I see you again.
Yeah.
Thanks for stopping by.
Get Lewis Hamilton next time, maybe.
Yeah. We'll get him on.
Yeah.
Him and Roscoe is a little dog. But yeah, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you guys later.